Hey everybody, welcome back to Music Explorer. We're here today with Tommy Mandel. He's a well-known keyboardist. He's got his start back in the late 70s with Mick, Ronson, and Ian Hunter. Then he moved down to playing with Bryan Adams for almost 2 decades. But he's played with other musicians throughout his career, including John Waite, The Pretenders, Foreigner, Bon Jovi, and many others. He's also got several solo albums he's released. You can check those out on his website. So Tommy, you grew up in New York City and you even went to music school with Paul Simon. How did that all start?
Well, I was born in the city, and then I have a twin sister who's also a musician. My dad got me an organ for my 16th birthday, and so I started playing in some bands that we were doing, like James Brown and Beatles and stuff. Even though I kind of stopped, practicing, I had enough of a background that gave me a little bit of a head start. And I ended up at NYU for my junior year of college, and that's where I met Paul Simon. He was teaching a course in songwriting. I guess they had just done Bridge Over Troubled Water. He'd just broken up with Garfunkel, the partnership, and he was looking to do something new. So he had auditions, and I heard about it, and I went and auditioned. He didn't say, "I like your song." He's like, well, no one else in the class plays piano, so we need a piano player so you can be in the class. So Melissa Manchester was in, the Roche sisters were in, and he actually, at one point, his management was interested in offering me some kind of a package deal to work with them, but it was a pretty comprehensive deal. And at that point, I still thought I was going to be huge, on my own. So so that was NYU. So I was like about 19, was my junior year. Then I went back to finish college at Bowdoin up in Maine, and barely did because I just was dying to get back. I was playing with a band with this guy, Steve Love, and Brian Madej, who went on to be in Stories. Remember that group, Brother Louie?
I'm not sure.
He was black as night, Louie was whiter than white.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was their hit, but they had originally been centered around this guy, Michael Brown, super talented guy from Left Bank, who co-wrote Walk Away, Renee, Pretty Ballerina, all that. And he was a genius, but he was a little out there. And so Steve, my band went off to play with him, and then I was like left alone. And then I got signed to Epic, which was like $100 a week and $72. And they had to put me in studio 4 times and pay for sessions. So that was my experience, 72. And then I had all those songs, and I went to see Oh Lucky Man, that Malcolm McDowell movie that with Alan Price did all the music for it. Well, I could take my songs and do a similar thing. So I wrote a rock opera, and we did it at La Mama Theater, and it was optioned for Broadway twice. And I thought, okay, now I'm going to be a rock opera composer. So that didn't happen. Then I wrote another one. We did it at Sarah Lawrence. I figured, make 3 sexes, because then there won't be too many gender questions, So it was a science fiction thing, took place underwater, and that didn't get as far, but that's a cartoon now. We could link to that. I actually animated it in the 90s when I was on the road with Bryan Adams. I was in my hotel room a lot because I was being faithful before being dumped. By then, it's 1978, and I've already been on the road with the National Lampoon Tour. A friend of mine, Paul Jacobs, a great keyboard player who played Leon Russell and Lemmings, and produced the whole Meatloaf album, co-wrote a whole Meatloaf album. He didn't want to go on the road with National Lampoon, so he taught me the stuff, and I went out for 3 months. That was my first tour, 77. So over then 78, things started petering out for me. And luckily, I'm in a band where I'm writing most of the songs with some of the guys from my 60s band. You know who Moogie is, right? He passed away recently. He's from, I think in 2014, 2015, keyboard player from Great Neck, who played on a lot of Todd Rundgren stuff.
Okay.
And great keyboard player. And he had a studio with Todd called Secret Sound on 24th Street and 6th Avenue. And one day we were recording my stuff, and he could hear that I was a decent player. And one day he asked me to sub for him. He was like, I'm supposed to play the open call Hair auditions or the callbacks for Hair today. So I did that. And at the end, I probably ruined a couple of people's careers because I'm not the greatest sight reader. And they'd come and put this like 10 pages of music in front of me, and I'd clink, clink, clink. And they're like, what? But, I did the best I could. And at the end, the casting director, Franny Pillersdorf, said, I want you to meet this singer I'm working with. She needs a regular pianist, someone so that she's not at the mercy of people like you who could screw up her auditions. So that was Ellen Foley. Ellen had just finishing the Meatloaf album where she did all the background vocals and you know, Paradise by the Dead.
Right.
I want to know, and all that great stuff. Heaven Can Wait. And so she had gotten signed by Meatloaf's company, Steve Popovich, who were also managing Ian Hunter. And Ian was working with Mick Ronson on an album. They were just finishing You're Never Alone with the Schizophrenic. So I was playing in Ellen's band, and Ian and Mick come to Full Tilt. I think that's where we were rehearsing, one of the rehearsal studios in the Garment District. So at the end of the rehearsal, Mick and Ian talk, and then they come over and say, me and Hilly, we want you to play on Ellen's record. We're putting a band together for the record, and we like the way you play. And they had such thick English accents. I had no idea what they were saying half the time. But this is where that great ability I have to say yes came in. I was like, yeah, I just kind of went with it. So that was Ellen Foley. Then they get ready to go on the road. But by then, Ian and Mick had said, we're doing a tour to support You're Never Alone with the Schizophrenic. You want to be on the tour? You want to be in the band? And that was the break that you asked me about. So we went on the road for 5 months, which ended up being the Welcome to the Club live album. And we did another tour and another album, and I think Bob Clearmountain mixed that. So in 1980, Clearmountain mixes Ian's next album, and we recorded some of it in England. Mick Jones from Clash was producing it. And so I played some organ there that when Bob was mixing the album, Clearmountain, he liked the organ playing. Meanwhile, this kid from Canada who was just starting out kind of, but had an underage publishing deal and was doing a record, traveled to New York and looked up Bob Clearmountain. He said, hey, are you Bob Clearmountain? He said, yeah, what do you want? And he said, I want you to produce my album. And he was like, well, who are you, you know? But anyway, so Bryan gives him this cassette of their songs. And from the story I heard, Bob listens to it and say, wow, this is great. Yeah, I'll produce you. And but you know, Bryan's first record had been done as a rock record in Canada. And after he went home, they completely took all the instruments off and turned it into a dance record, which really was not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So that first record, it's got a good song on it called Don't You Say It. But so the record that we did at the Power Station was his second album. It's called You Want It, You Got It. Right. And he got, and so Bob got me on it. And he got Mickey Curry and Brian Stanley on it because they had both been on G.E. Smith's solo record called Nuns with Guns that Bob had produced. And so he put a little band together. On that record, we didn't have a lead guitarist. It was before Keith. So, I mean, Bryan, I think, knew Keith. Keith was like a fixture. Keith got out in the West Coast scene, but this was done with New York studio musicians. So there were different guys came in and played. G.E., I think, played some Jamie Glazier, different guys. And then eventually Bryan got quite popular, and I was playing with John Wade at that point and doing Bryan's records. And at some point, it just made sense to start playing on Bryan's band.
Yeah, you stayed with him a long time. That's a really good career. I mean, you got to see him go all the way to the top. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of, he was sort of getting there, or there in some ways because he had Reckless and I was on the records, but not on tour. It's funny because with Bryan, there were many times when I was on his records, but not on his videos because he wanted the live band on the videos. And then later on, he started using a couple other guys to play keyboards, and I wasn't on certain records, but I was on those videos. So like everything I do it for you. That's Bill Payne from Little Feat playing keyboards on it, but I'm in the video.